Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and today we're here taking a look at a very rare South African semi-auto submachine gun called a Paramax. Now this thing is closely related to the Kommando submachine gun, originally designed in Rhodesia and later produced in both Rhodesia and South Africa. What's funny about this is it's in fact the latest version. These were manufactured in 1980 and 1981, and yet in many ways the design has reverted backwards, and it's actually not as sophisticated or not as nice as the Kommando. And the most obvious distinction here is that where the Kommando had this nice, actually pretty good looking, molded plastic lower assembly, the Paramax here is made out of basically a big bent sheet steel girder. There are a number of internal changes as well, and the exact history and the rationale behind this is really pretty murky. We know these guns were manufactured by the South African company Maxim Parabellum, who had been making the Kommando under license, but we don't really know why they made the changes to this one. Apparently they claimed that they had a big potential export market, and that's what they tooled up for. These guns remain extremely rare in South Africa. 4, maybe 5 of them known to exist with the collectors that I've talked to. Serial number on this one is 300, so they may have made at least a couple hundred, or they may have started the serial number range high. You never really know for sure without a large sample size. At any rate, there are a couple changes to this. So if you haven't seen the video we did on the Kommando, I would suggest taking a look at that first, and then we can take a look at the inside of this and see what changed. So here we have a Kommando and a Paramax side by side, and you can see a number of similarities that they have. The barrel nuts are the same, the receiver end caps are basically the same design. We have sights up on the receiver, charging handle in the same place, pistol grip is the same design. They both use standard Uzi mags. However, the obvious primary difference is this change from a plastic molded housing to a stamped square sheet metal housing with this add-on grip. There's not much in the way of markings on it, but it does say Paramax. It's also marked either VPF or maybe a VPP up here on the front sight. Not sure what that designates. And there is a serial number, 00300, and caliber, which is 9mm Parabellum, on the top of the receiver tube. Now, to start with some of the external differences, the safety only rotates 90 degrees instead of the 180 degrees of the Kommando. The sights on the Paramax are an open notch in the back instead of an aperture. Instead of a pair of wings, the front sight has this big shroud hood, and it's a really big barleycorn style sight. The front horizontal grip is of course different, and the stock is of a completely different design. It is just an extending wire frame like so. Now there's a spring catch here that's supposed to snap into place and hold this firmly until you push the catch. On this gun, it's worn and the stock doesn't actually stay out. In order to disassemble the Paramax, we actually have to start with the barrel nut. On the Kommando, you could take off either the front or the back. On this one, you've got to start at the front. Notice that we also have sling swivels integral to the front and rear end caps. On the Paramax, you had a separate sling built into the carry case. Now, once the front nut is off, then we can take the rear one off. The front one pulls the whole thing forward and locks it in place. Now, this guy doesn't have that spring retainer that the Kommando does, so when you take off the rear cap, the spring is going to try and come out. You'll also notice that it doesn't have that ejector rod that the Kommando did. So for the rest of the disassembly, we are going to pull the bolt back until the handle is in this hole. In order to get it there, you actually have to rotate the whole upper assembly up so that it lifts off of the ejector and the magazine if you left it in there like I did. Once we have that all the way back, charging handle comes out, and then we can take out the bolt. This is a 2-piece bolt assembly, just like the Kommando, so they did keep that clever idea. The barrel on the Paramax has an integral feed ramp in it. For that reason, it also has a flat section milled up here so that it has to go in the correct orientation. So I think I said at the beginning these take standard Uzi mags, and I was slightly incorrect there. It is actually a modified Uzi mag because the mag release on the Paramax is on the back of the magazine, where on the Uzi and on the Kommando it's here on the side. So interestingly, the Paramax requires a notch in the back of the Uzi magazine like this. And what we have found here are two what appear to be standard production magazines with those cuts made. You'll also note they don't have a rib on the back, as a lot of standard Uzi mags do. We also have this, which is another Uzi mag that has been converted to add this hole. This is obviously done by hand, where these two are clearly done at the factory. So these are magazines for the Paramax, and maybe for something else as well. This may have been something Maxim Parabellum had in mind that they were producing magazines for. I'm just really not sure about that. The two other major changes here are the use of this fixed ejector instead of the pin ejector coming through the bolt, and the use of the feed ramp in the barrel, you saw earlier, instead of the folding spring-loaded feed ramp built into the magazine well. The fire control group of the Paramax is essentially identical to that of the Kommando. And you can see this spring catch back here. I don't know if you can see it very well. That is there to lock the stock in place. Although, like I said, it doesn't really function on this gun. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's definitely not as nice of a gun as the Kommando. It's a lot heavier and not as comfortable. And who knows why it was actually made. If, by any chance, you know more details about this, or if you've seen one outside of South Africa, I would be very interested to hear about it. These were apparently intended for export, but I'm not aware of any of them actually leaving the country. So, at any rate, if you know anything about them, let us know down in the comments. If not, stay tuned for another cool forgotten weapon tomorrow, and thanks for watching.